Hello everybody, it's Anita here from Flower Folk Farm. It is absolutely wonderful to have you along on my channel today. Today I wanted to do a SHEDWARS21 video with a little bit of a tip on how I manage weeds here at Flower Folk Farm. It's something we all have to deal with at some point in time as gardeners and farmers, and they can pose a whole lot of problems for us here. So I just wanted to share with you some of the ways that I tackle weeds here on the farm, some of the causes, some of the benefits and some of the problems. And I'm also going to share with you just what we've done in 12 months, how we've been able to eradicate most of the weeds here in our biodynamic paddock. So come along and I'll talk you through some of the stuff. Okay guys, so some of the things that can actually encourage weeds in your garden are things like soil compaction, lack of drainage, unbalanced nutrition in your soil, incorrect pH in your soil, and also salinity issues. There's a whole lot more of other things that may impact weeds in your garden. So I have included some links below in my description that might give you a little bit more of an idea of some other issues that you might be facing in your own patch at home. Okay, so before you eradicate a weed, have a little think about and do some research on what is that weed telling me about the soil that I'm using? What conditions is this weed telling me that it likes to grow in? And what can I learn from that weed? What is it teaching me about that soil condition? So thistles can be a sign that your soil is compact and extremely dry, and on many occasions it can be crusting at the surface. So thistles can indicate something about your soil that needs to be fixing in order for that weed to not thrive in that environment. And by just getting rid of the thistle, you're not actually dealing with the main cause of the problem, and that is the soil. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit now about things that you can do to improve your soil. In my link below in the description, I've got a really fabulous resource that I use in our biodynamic farm that explains a little bit about each weed and how you can treat the soil to get rid of that weed without having to continually deal with it over and over again. But first, let's have a look at some of the benefits of weeds. Okay, so in many ways, weeds are indicators of soil imbalances, and in actual fact, they act as the source of fixing that problem with the soil.
Some of the problems that weeds can cause are competition for space and nutrients and water for your plants. They can harbour pests and disease. They can even lower crop quality and quantity and be poisonous and create fire hazards, not to mention the economic impact on farms. Some of the best ways to manage weeds is through good soil management, including composting, keeping good soil pH balance and good soil nutrition by utilising green manure or cover crops and increasing soil humus levels. Also good crop rotations and not allowing weeds to set seed.
So it's also really good to remember that most weeds form part of a really healthy ecosystem, and we do need them for certain things. So for example, our animals, and also for edible food. So there are really good aspects to weeds, but there are also some really problematic aspects as well. So it's all about keeping those in check and in balance. And as you can see behind me, in our beds, we utilise a biodynamic approach with our gardening and farming, which actually utilises the weeds to get the most out of them for us. So I'll talk to you a little bit about our farm and what we've done to be able to manage the weeds and make them work for us instead of us always having to work at keeping them under control. Okay, so what you can see behind me is 12 months worth of working this soil and utilising biodynamic approaches to getting it back into a healthy system so that we don't have to manage the weeds as much anymore. So when we started working this property, it was a year ago, and we initially found we had really serious problem with onion weed and also cape weed. Now I'm going to put photos of those up for you to see. Now I can't even find one to be able to show you. I've just tried to find them and there's not even one in the paddock. So both of those weeds are signs of compaction, and whenever you're working with weeds, it's always good to look at what soils they thrive in so that you can determine what is actually going on with your soil and where you need to start. Do your research, find out more about that weed, and find out what nutrients it's high in, because with the cape weed, what we did was, as part of our system, we planted green manure, which is actually a cover crop, and we did 3 seasons of that before it was actually in the state where that compaction had gone and where those weeds were under control. So it was roughly about 12 months before we were planting. So these beds behind me here, although they're empty at the moment, we're just sort of in the middle of transferring seasons. So we're into our autumn and winter season now and getting ready for that. This has really been over a year's worth of work, almost 1.5 years now. So, and I can't find any cape weed or onion weed to be able to show you. So it's a sign that it really does work. And that cape weed is high in calcium, which is also another signal that cape weed tells you is that your soil is low in calcium. So by putting that back through with the green crop and just doing a very gentle till and getting that back into the soil, we've been able to eradicate that weed quite naturally and make sure that our soil is getting its nutrients back into it as well. Okay, so thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope you've found some useful information in amongst everything I've spoken about today, something that you can apply to your own garden at home. And don't forget that I will be putting the link below for a couple of sites that are just really helpful in supporting you in managing your weeds at home. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of the week and take care, and it's just been great to be able to spend some time with you today. Bye.